Today we're driving the 2022 Lexus NX 350h. This is the luxury package, so it comes in around $48,500. Not cheap, but you're getting a lot of car for your money. Lexus has fully gone over and refreshed and updated this NX for the 22 model year. Earlier this year, or actually last year, we drove the NX 450h Plus, which is the plug-in hybrid. This is not that. This just has the standard hybrid powertrain. But we have about 46 more horsepower in the 22 model year, than we did in the previous generation NX. The previous gen had 194. This has 240 horsepower between the 2.5 liter four-cylinder engine and the hybrid powertrain electric motors. So pretty decent power. It comes in all-wheel drive as standard. We get about 41 miles to the gallon on the highway, 37 in the city, so pretty decent fuel economy too, definitely an improvement over the previous generation. And really where we see a lot of changes is in this interior. We have a massive touchscreen now with Lexus's updated infotainment. We have some funky steering wheel buttons that correspond with a head-up display and change depending on what menu you're selecting. I've only spent about a day in this car so far, so going to give you guys some first impressions and my thoughts on that, but I haven't really gotten used to using this car as much as I would like this week. Only limited time behind the wheel. So these will be some first impressions, but hopefully we can spend some more time in an NX in the future. That said though, there is a lot to unpack with this new car. Let's start on the outside. We'll walk you around this and we'll show you what it looks like, and then we'll head on to the interior and just look at all the new tech with this new NX. There's a lot of stuff. It's very impressive. We have this blue metallic color, and this with the red interior looks really quite sharp. Pretty big 20-inch wheels. Not the best over potholes, if I'm being honest, but this NX does handle quite well. And comparing it to the RAV4 hybrid, I think it has much nicer road manners. This is still a pre-production unit, so not a final production car that we have today to test, so we might have a few more rattles, maybe not as nice build quality as we would normally see in a production NX. So keep that in mind throughout the review. That said though, everything here is pretty much production on appearances. NX has always been a really nicely sized vehicle. It's reasonably priced. The hybrid offers really nice driving dynamics. I love what Lexus is doing with their hybrid powertrains these days, and the added power from this NX 350h is really a welcome addition for the 22 model year. This actually feels pretty quick now. We get a decent amount of ground clearance, a decent amount of interior room. We get heated rear seats in this luxury package, which is quite nice. A panoramic sunroof. This also has the Mark Levinson sound system, so we'll be sure to test that at the end of this video. Some seat pockets in the back. A little bit of an updated look, but it's still pretty recognizable as an NX, if I'm being honest. I like what they did with the rear end. This wide Lexus lettering on the back looks pretty sharp. I like the spoiler design. This little side piece looks pretty cool. All right, let's hop in front here and talk about this interior space, because there is really a lot to discuss. So first of all, everything seems to be positioned pretty well in this interior. We have a digital display in the middle that shows us our power level, our fuel economy readout, a bunch of different settings and options, and we can also kind of change that depending on what we prefer to view down there, which is nice. But overall, this center display is pretty simplistic and pretty minimal, which I actually kind of like. Down here we have our shifter, very similar shifter design to what we've seen with Toyota and Lexus hybrids before. There's an EV mode button for, I believe that's speeds under 25 miles an hour. You've got a button here for off-road mode, which we haven't tested, but we would like to at some point. There's this glove box that opens up from both sides, which is pretty cool. Cup holders are in a nice position too. And here we have our Qi wireless charging, which this week, again, having some issues with Toyota and Lexus's new wireless charging systems. My phone seems to kind of just move a couple centimeters over and it gets off the charging element, and it doesn't really, it just sits there and flashes. But you do get a nice storage compartment underneath to put a mobile device if you want to store it there and you don't want to have to worry about wireless charging flashing at you all the time. Here you have a button and a dial for your drive mode selection, so you can choose between sport, normal, and eco drive modes, which is cool. I like the positioning of that. Pretty simple steering wheel controls until you realize that they change depending on what screen you're in. You really only have two different screens for the right side. One controls cruise control and the other controls the height of your head-up display and your display menus in the center in the gauge cluster. The other side controls your music, your voice command, and your phone, or your audio mode, track selection, or your audio power, turning things on and off. So it's not too complicated. It's just that, you know, you're going to have to look at this head-up display to see what you're selecting, what you're pressing, and it's touch activated, which is kind of clever. I like this infotainment a lot. We have a massive screen. We have some quick access controls for climate. You can see a little bit like the Mustang Mach-E. We have these over the screen that show us our temperature. And this is quite clever because there's a system here that will automatically control your ventilated seats, your heated steering wheel, depending on the temperature that you set the climate control to. The buttons are very light. I would like a little bit more resistance with them, but that's okay. You can quickly control your climate control speeds or set it to auto right here. That's very easy. I put it to 65 degrees right now. It's about 50 degrees outside, but we're getting a lot of sun in here. It'll actually turn on the cooled ventilated seats for me, which is very nice. I appreciate that. Then you have some quick access controls here in a drop up menu or a flip up menu. You can select your lane departure alerts, your HUD mode. So you can have a full head-up display, which shows some more detail, a minimal head-up display, which pretty much just shows your speed, or your standard mode, which is kind of what I prefer. You can set your comfort and convenience to max heat, max cool, silence everything on the radio. There's some more quick access controls here and some more controls there, which is nice. I appreciate that. I'm sure that's customizable too, and it will adapt to whatever settings you use the most in your system. In the native infotainment, there is navigation, music, phone, vehicle settings, and lots of customizability. We'll just leave it in CarPlay today. This touchscreen is nice and responsive, feels pretty good, and you get a little audible tone when you touch things with it. We also have the option for a fully digital rear view mirror, which is something that I've been using quite a bit this week. The view in the mirror is a little bit hindered by the C-pillar and the headrests, so it's actually proven to be quite useful this week. Otherwise, just a nice looking, functional, very tech-forward interior. Lexus was always a little bit behind on the tech front, and this NX brings them into the modern era, and I like what they've done. They've combined lots of digital controls, touchscreens, with a lot of physical buttons. So you get physical buttons for your drive mode, for your camera view, for a lot of other things like your parking, your automatic parking, your traction control off buttons. You've got here a button to pop the tailgate and increase or decrease the gauge cluster illumination or reset your trip. All of that is just a physical control. Your seat memory settings, all that just works, is very easy to use. So not a whole lot of system settings and features hidden within the infotainment, but everything is at least quite accessible, at least with a climate control right here. We do have a volume knob, but we don't have a tune dial. So once you get all your favorites, if you live with this car, you just have to kind of navigate those with your steering wheel buttons or switch into that application, and passengers will have to do the DJ work for you. Up here we have some sliding sun visors, our sunroof controls with this little sunshade, which we're going to leave open today because it's a pretty bright sunny day. Sunroof controls look like that. You can put this pretty far back. That's about as far as it goes. Oh, one thing I did forget to mention, we do have these electronically controlled door handles. They are just, they're just electronic buttons, and they feel kind of funky. They're on the outside and the inside. If they do ever break, which is unlikely because this is a Lexus, there is a physical control like that you can open, and you just press it 2x, and that'll escape from your Lexus NX if you're ever trapped. Let's take a look at the reverse camera. Some neat features with this reverse camera. So nice high-res display, looks pretty cool. But when you back up, the NX vanishes and it shows you what's underneath the car. The camera remembers what's beneath you, which is very cool. There's also a little display here that says not live. So I assume there's just a little bit of a 0.2 second delay there with the reverse camera, but still kind of a neat feature to see the NX draw your surroundings and show you what's underneath your vehicle. Yeah, something I haven't seen that much in modern reverse cameras. Okay, let's take this NX 350H for a drive and see what it's like on the road. Upon first impressions, we have a much improved and much more refined hybrid powertrain. It's a lot smoother, a lot quieter. The transition between electric to a gas engine turning on is a little bit smoother, not as abrupt. And I think this 2.5 liter is a little bit quieter than it used to be in the previous gen. The biggest difference really is the responsiveness and the extra power from this updated NX. 240 horsepower feels pretty healthy in this new car. It's responsive. I like it. It feels kind of nice. Brake pedal feels nice and firm. No complaints there. No wonkiness with this being a hybrid with regenerative braking. Turning radius looks pretty good too. In the limited time that I've spent with this NX, these seats are very comfortable. I like the driving position. I like my forward visibility. I did mention that these 20-inch wheels are a little bit rough over potholes. There's just a lot more cabin intrusion than I would prefer in a car like this with these 20-inch wheels. I'm not sure if there's the option for a smaller wheel and tire package, but it's just something to note that it's kind of rough in your luxurious sub $50,000 Lexus. All right, off we go. Yeah, it feels good. And we have some interior rattles, a few little vibrations here and there. Again, this is a pre-production vehicle, so hopefully we see those go away in a production unit that we can test later this year. For the sake of it, or for the fun of it, let's put us into sport mode and see how this handles. A lot of understeer, but otherwise feels pretty flat, pretty predictable. On my first impressions drive with the NX 450H Plus, the plug-in hybrid, I found it to be a lot better dynamically than the RAV4 Prime. This NX 350H honestly feels pretty similar to how it always has. Maybe a little bit lighter, a little bit less heavy and weighed down than the previous generation. So steering's a little bit lighter, feels a little bit more nimble, but overall not a huge difference. It's still not a sporty driving experience. This is still more of a luxurious car, and it doesn't like to be hustled or rushed. A little bit of wind noise at highway speeds, but overall not too bad. Let's see if we can get cruise control rolling here with this new system here. All right, so it's showing us the speed that we've set the system to, which is nice with our standard head-up display view. We can't skip 5-mile-an-hour increments, but it will increase quickly if you just hold the up button, which is nice. We're turning adaptive cruise on. We can also turn lane tracing assist on, and it's steering us into a semi-truck. Let's see if that works a little bit better now that we're straightened out. One pretty big complaint that I'm finding with these steering wheel buttons, especially with regards to cruise control, is that they're not very responsive. So let's say if you know that up is going to increase your speed, the button won't register until it actually has sensed your finger on the wheel. Or if you just want to quickly cancel cruise control, you can't just hit the right button and it'll cancel. It'll still continue going. You have to kind of place your finger on the steering wheel. It has to register that your finger's there, and then you have to hit cancel. So there's a little bit of a delay, and sometimes you're double pressing to get something that you want done pretty quickly. I would like... It's interesting. You have to kind of touch the button before you press it to utilize it sometimes. And in normal driving, that can be a little bit distracting instead of just knowing exactly where the button is. Like, I'm pressing cancel, and it's only doing it the second time I've pressed it, which is a bit odd. Also, lane tracing just completely shot me into the other lane. That was weird. Yeah, some issues here. Like I put my turn signal on there, tried to merge the lane, and it didn't want me over there.
Left onto exit 8.
There are some plastics and pieces, trim pieces in this new NX that don't quite impress me as much as I was hoping for. Some things just feel a little bit cheap. I don't know, maybe it's the few rattles that this has, or the occasional vibration, but I'm not blown away by the interior quality in this 2022 NX. And I felt the same way with the 450h Plus. It's nice, it's fine for $50,000, but I've seen Lexus do a little bit better with their materials. I think they focus a little bit more on the design instead of the rock solid quality feeling interiors that maybe they've had in the past that fell a little bit short in terms of design. So a little bit of a trade-off there perhaps. For the most part this week, I've noticed that this NX is just, it's kind of an evolution of the previous generation. There's nothing too revolutionary here in terms of the powertrain and driving dynamics. The extra power is nice, but it's not like we're getting a ton more usability out of this as an electric driving vehicle. Light throttle applications will still kick the engine on. You can't cruise around a ton in full EV mode, but we do get quite a bit more power. And really the focus on this new NX was making this a more tech-forward luxury vehicle. And I think Lexus has done a really nice job with that. There's just so many great features to unpack in this NX. I remember it was about 6 months ago, we had a presentation on this at the Mama Fall Rally. And it was an hour-long presentation just talking about all the new features in the NX. And there was really just a lot to go over and discuss. It was pretty impressive. Chris and Charlie from Daily Motor have also been driving this NX this week, and they've been getting about 34 and a half miles to the gallon in combined driving with their highway fuel economy testing, stuff like that, according to the readout. Those aren't actual at the pump numbers. So if you do want to see some real world fuel economy numbers with what this does on the highway, head on over to the Daily Motor channel. They'll probably be posting a fuel economy test before I get this review live on my channel. All right, one more entrance ramp to see how this handles. Slow down here for MDOT. Again, we're getting a lot of understeer at pretty much any speed with this NX. Doesn't feel as balanced or neutral as the 450h Plus with that extra weight in the rear with that plug-in hybrid battery system. Great power though, merging onto the highway. That feels really healthy. Is our speedometer really that off? Interesting. I've got indicated 85 miles an hour, but on the navigation we've got 90 miles an hour. That's odd. That's very unlike Lexus and Toyota. Usually they're under 2 or 3 miles per hour just to be safe. Your indicated speed, your actual speed is under your indicated speed, whereas this is about 5 over your indicated speed via GPS, which is very interesting. Huh. Okay, well, while we're just cruising and wrapping up this drive, let's go in and test out this Mark Levinson sound system. We've got our sound test playlist here queued up. Let's see what it sounds like. Alright guys, well those are some first impressions on the 2022 Lexus NX 350h. I think overall a pretty nice car. I'm very curious to see what a production vehicle would be like, to see if they make any changes and fix some of the issues that we've had with this one this week. A few of the rattles, we've seen production cars completely solve those problems. The speedometer being quite a bit off is a little bit strange. But otherwise, overall, this is a really impressive new offering from Lexus. I like what they've done with all the technology and implementing so many features into this space. There's just really a whole lot going on here that is nice to see Lexus finally kind of bringing their vehicles and next generation lineup into the modern era. So we've kind of had very similar products from Lexus over the last 12, 13 years or so, and now we're seeing their next generation starting to emerge, starting with this NX, and I think it's a nice direction. So anyway, guys, we'll leave it at that. Just kind of a quick first impressions drive today, and just only a couple days in this car, but hopefully we'll get some more time in one in the future. Until then, though, thanks for watching. Let me know if you guys have any questions. We'll see you later. Take care. Probably telling me I left my phone in the car. Still quite an aggressive front end for a pretty tame crossover. I like what they've done with the back design though.